Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Kian and welcome or maybe welcome back to my YouTube channel for the second part of my list of my favorite albums of 2019. We're doing it in April 2020 because why not? And if you've watched the first part of this list, you know how I've decided to create it. I've decided to pick 50 albums that I've ranked in alphabetical order because I didn't really want to do like a top ranking all these albums. I feel like all of them are great, and even though there are some that I like more than others, it doesn't really matter to me. So yeah, this is going to be part 2. There are going to be 25 albums. I'm just going to say a few words about each of them, why I like them, why I think you should listen to them, and I also want you to tell me first off if you like those albums, but also what were your favorite albums of 2019, and especially albums that I may have not heard, because even though I do listen to a lot of music, there are a lot of albums that I've missed. So I love to hear your thoughts, I love to hear your suggestions, and that's pretty much it. Let's jump straight back into this list. Alright, something about IGOR, like when I first overreacted to it. There's a video of that on my YouTube channel. I mean, the first time I listened to it, I loved it so much. I thought it was one of the most original pieces of music I've heard last year, and it's still true. But I feel like once you get past the experimental and really exciting part of this album, there isn't much left. Like I still love this album. That's why I included it in my list, but honestly, after 2 weeks, I haven't revisited that album that much. So yeah, I still really love it, and I think it's great, and I think it was really a statement for Taylor, the creator, and it truly shows what an important artist is for hip-hop at the moment, and also pop music, I think. But yeah, I like it. That's all you need to know, and I loved it the first time I listened to it, so definitely, yeah, that was one of the most memorable albums of 2019, I'll say for sure. That album was actually a nice surprise because I didn't know about IDK before listening to Is It Real. And Is It Real is an album, it's a concept album actually about is God real? He talks a lot about faith, about religion on this album. But although you think, oh, okay, this concept is not maybe something you relate to, actually the concept is quite light. Like it talks a lot about all of these things, especially in the interludes. There's an interlude where DMX is playing the role of a pastor. It's really funny to listen to actually. But for the rest of the album, when you do forget about that, because sometimes you do, it did create an album that is very fun to listen to, and at the same time that feels really ambitious, and I feel like he's one of the best producer, or at least one of the most promising producer and rapper to have came up in the past year, and I definitely think he's going places. There are a lot of songs on this album, especially Digital. The chorus is perfect on this song, or 24, that I don't know how those didn't become like little smashes on streaming platform, because a lot of these songs have a huge potential, and I could see them become hit records on the radio, on streaming platforms. So it's a bit surprising to me, but also the album is more than that. There's a very reflective side of this album, a bit more personal, that is also really nice to discover when you listen to it, especially on songs such as European Skies, and another one called Michael What the Fuck, which is a bit, once again, a bit fun to listen to, but when you actually understand the meaning of the song, it's a bit darker. So it was a very ambitious album, and it might not be incredible the first time you listen to it, but listen to it a few times, I promise you it's worth listening to. This is one of my favorite pop albums of the year. It was such a rush listening to it for the first time, and it gives you the rush good pop music is supposed to make you feel, that it's supposed to give you. And yeah, I've listened to this album so many times actually. I've gone back to it many times. The collaborations are perfect. Ronson definitely knows how to collaborate with female artists. And yeah, it's a perfect pop album. Really, honestly, there's no better way to put it than to call it a perfect pop album. I also want Licky Lee and Ronson to work together on a full album, because I feel like they have a lot more to give us. Shame on me, but I've never listened to Bad for Lashes before this album, and like I knew of Bad for Lashes, but I didn't know her music. And Lost Girls was a revelation. Natasha Khan was really inspired by vampire films from the 80s, such as The Hunger, for this album. At the same time, I do feel more of a Steven Spielberg influence on the music. But it does really feel like the soundtrack to a film from the 80s. It plays with that retro 80s synth pop influence that a lot of artists have been using this past 4 or 5 years. And you know, it is getting a bit tiring, like too many artists have used it, so it's not really original or really fascinating. But the way Bad for Lashes used it, it's actually perfect. You can feel that Natasha Khan really loved 80s music, that it's the music she grew listening to. Yeah, it's done with such authenticity and so much love for the music, and she really managed to create such a stunning and captivating musical landscape on this album, and it's very cinematic, and there are so many great pop songs on this album. So yeah, kudos to you, Bad for Lashes, because definitely, like, this was a big reveal for me. This was a big revelation for me, this album. So and one of the best pop albums of the year too. I've said that quite often, but I guess we did have a lot of good pop albums this year. Once again, I reacted to this album, so I feel like I've said everything that I not everything, but I've said most of the things that I had to say about this album during my reaction video. It's a very beautiful album. It's exactly what I was expecting FK Twigs to do, and even more. So yeah, it's heartbreaking as well. It's stunning. It leaves you speechless. I actually recorded a review now that I think about this album. I tried to do like a track by track review that I never edited. And honestly, all that I was praising on this album was Lana Del Rey songwriting that is absolutely stellar, especially on this album. It has always been great. Like, I love Lana Del Rey for a lot of reasons, but her songwriting might be the main reason why I love her. She's an incredible songwriter, and Norman fucking Rockwell is a perfect proof of that. And I'm glad that finally people are saying that she is a great songwriter. Finally, they realized that it was about time. I also have to praise Jack Antonoff's production. It is stunning, and what I like is they haven't tried to make a production that is too overwhelming, yet it's still very musical and very impressive. And for example, on a song like Venice Beach, which is 10 minutes long, and it's a trip, and it's incredible. Production-wise, it's really incredible, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like they did something that was too overwhelming, or even it doesn't even feel like they tried to do something that was incredible. They just created music that they liked, and you can definitely feel that. You can feel that she loves her music, and that the collaboration was with Jack Antonoff was a great thing for her. And yeah, that's really all the praise that I can give to this album, because this is an album that is well deserving of the praise it has been getting. I've really liked Loyle Carner for a long time, but ever since he dropped Ottolenghi back in 2018, I knew something was happening. Like, I knew I was going to really love what he was going to put out, but still I wasn't sure. And when he dropped Not Waving But Drowning, I mean, I was mesmerized by this album, really. As much lyrically as in the production, as in his delivery, his flow. He's a great rapper, like one of the best rappers we have at the moment, I think. And this one was definitely my favorite rap album of the year. It is so heartfelt, it is so vulnerable, and exactly like Bon Iver's album, those are really different, but it talks a bit about politics, but it's more him looking at the world around him and looking at the problems that he encountered in his life. But it also talks a lot about him falling in love, just like James Blake's album, and him having doubts about it and being like, am I good enough to take care of someone? Am I strong enough to love someone? And yeah, it's such a heartfelt album. It's extremely honest. And that's probably why I love it so much, because it's extremely honest. And yeah, it's such a comforting album. Because once again, exactly like Bon Iver's album, this album, when you listen to it, at the end you just think, oh yeah, I'm not alone, because it's extremely relatable. A lot of the things, even though he talks about personal experiences, there are a lot of things that you can relate to. So yeah, this is a stunning album, and I feel like that a lot of people haven't been paying attention to Loyle Carner. And I definitely think if you like rap music, if you like hip hop, if you like, even if you like R&B, or even if you like pop in the end, if you like music, I think you should listen to this album. Alright, I'm gonna say something about this album, and I know that a lot of people are usually surprised when I say that, but I think this album is really reassuring. Because to me, even though Slowthai is very provocative, and that's mainly why people talk about him, and he also is a very special rapper, I think. The way he raps or he sings, his delivery really mix punk music and rap. And yeah, his music is really special to listen to, because I feel like there's nobody who exactly sounds like Slowthai right now in the rap industry. But it's not what is reassuring to me about this album. What is reassuring to me is that Slowthai sort of represents a part of Britain and also different countries that you don't get to see often in the medias, that you don't get to hear often. And it's nice that someone is bold enough, even if sometimes it's a bit vulgar, to talk about such a problem, such an issues. And in the end, what Slowthai is doing here, it talks about his personal experiences. And once again, just like Bon Iver, just like Loyle Carner, it's just a man looking at the world around him and looking at his own experiences with society, and just talking about what he knows, and what he knows happen to be political, because yeah, that's a lot of things that we talk about right now, but in the end we need to talk about those things. And I think Slowthai does it in a way that is so special and that speaks to a lot of people, even though it sounds very provocative at times. Even sometimes you almost don't take him seriously, because you're like, did he just say Elizabeth you can't on the opening track of his album? But I mean, all of his anger, all of his provocations, I feel like they're here for a reason, and to me that is really reassuring. He's one of the most singular voices in rap music at the moment, and I find it really reassuring. Toro in what always delivers on his album. His previous one was stunning and weird. Like, it felt really like a mood piece, his previous album. This one feels more like a DJ set, sort of, and it's nice because it's shorter, it's a lot of fun, and it's very experimental at the same time, but it doesn't really feel like that. And production wise, it's a very impressive album, but once again it doesn't feel like it. So yeah, it's an album that I've really enjoyed listening to, and if you want to have like a little dance party, I definitely recommend this album. I've had huge expectations about this album ever since I heard Door. That was my first introduction to Carner and Polachek. I didn't really know about Chairlift. And this song is absolutely outstanding. It's incredible. It's really incredible. One of my favorite songs of 2019. But my expectations were really high, and if you've seen my reaction video, you'll know that I've loved listening to this album for the first time. And I think it's, in the end, along with James Blake's album and Loyle Carner's album, the album that I've returned to the most this year. It's, each time I listen to it, I found something new about it. It's kept on revealing to me, and there's really honestly not a single song on this album that I'd get rid of, because everything is so stellar, everything is so well produced. Yeah, and a voice. I mean, a voice. We don't talk enough about her voice, but she's an incredible singer. Like, I really do think she's like one of the best singers we have working in the pop industry at the moment. So yeah, I could rave for hours about this album because I really, really do love it. But I think if you want to see me rave about this album, you can just watch my reaction video. But I just needed to tell you that really Peng is it's in my top 3 of the year. There's really nothing quite like this album. Hamza is a Belgian rapper, and I was a bit surprised that a lot of my friends were recommending this album to me. A lot of them were saying, you'll see, it mixes like an American type of hip hop with a huge R&B influence, and that is true. I feel like Hamza is as much a hip hop artist as he is an R&B artist, and I love the way he mixed that. I feel like it has been since probably Take Care by Drake that we haven't heard someone mix hip hop and R&B so well, and I just love the way he raps or sings and the way he mixes French and English in his lyrics. Like, even if you don't understand French, like, it's fine because I've read the lyrics and some of them, they're not that interesting. Like, the lyrical content of this album is not the most interesting things, but it just, the production wise and the way it creates melodies, it's kind of incredible. It's a sort of a long album, but it really doesn't feel long at all. And to me, it was one of the best hip hop project of the year. It's really something you need to listen to. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to describe it. I don't want to make you think that it's a project that is absolutely incredible, but at the same time, I do think it's really special and it's really great. And yeah, if you like hip hop and R&B, you definitely need to listen to this because it's surprising to say the least. And there are also a lot of bangers, and it's also a lot of fun to listen to, so that's always a nice touch. Orville Peck to me is such a new UFO in the country music landscape. I don't listen to a lot of country, but this album is definitely something that I'm sure there are not a lot of albums like this one. The way he sings, it's really reminiscent of Elvis. It really feels like it's a singer from the 60s or the 70s singing on this album, or even of the 50s. Like, maybe I'm not great with country music history, but it definitely feels like something from a different time, especially on songs like Roses Are Falling For You, and even on his entire album, when you listen to it, at times you're like, there's no way this was created in 2019. But then, when you listen to the lyrical content of the album, it talks a lot about homophobia, about a lot of social issues that are very current. And you're like, well, this album was definitely written and created in 2019. And it's so weird, actually, when you really think about it. But yeah, there's something so old school, so retro about this album. And something so current about it as well, that it makes it feel a bit timeless, really. And it's also one of the most interesting albums that I've heard this year because it doesn't sound like anything else I've heard this year. And he's an incredible singer. His voice is captivating. When I told you that I thought 2019 was an important year for British rap, I think Psychodrama, this album, is a perfect proof of that. It won the Mercury Prize and it won the Brit Award for Album of the Year, and honestly, it's extremely deserving of it, and it actually speaks to the quality of this album and what an important statement this album is. I don't think that production-wise, Psychodrama is as interesting as everyone is saying. There are some interesting moments in the production, of course. For example, on a song like Purple Heart, or on Psycho, the first track of the album, on also his song with J Us. But I don't think the production is the main appeal of Psychodrama. I think what is really striking on this album is Dave. Just Dave is extremely striking. What he has to say, his lyricism, his flow, his quality as a rapper, his delivery, the way he creates a statement, and also his storytelling. His storytelling is incredible on this album. And yeah, it's an important album. I really do believe it's a very important album. This album was a late discovery for me, actually. I was watching a show 2 weeks ago that's called The Morning Show, and there was this song that came on, and it felt like a song that was straight out from the 60s. The voice on this track, I thought, oh, this is coming from a totally different era of music. And then I shazammed it and I saw that it was Jessica Pratt, who a lot of my friends were talking about. And I've finally listened to the album. The song was called As the World Turns, by the way, and it's one of the most beautiful things I've heard last year. And I've listened to the album and it's exactly that. And once again, exactly like Orville Peck, I do not understand how this album was created in 2019 by an artist who's only 30 years old, because it totally feels like something from a different era of music. It feels like something from the late 60s, like Jessica Pratt could have worked like with Simon Garfunkel or something like that. It's really stunning. The songwriting is beautiful, but a work on guitars is something that I love, and a voice. You haven't heard anything like this, really. Funny enough, I've actually forgotten this album was released last year, because I think it was released really early in the year. But I remember when it was released, I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the production, and I love how Pretty Girls Like Trap Music seem to, for me, to be a real rebirth for 2 Chainz, because ever since this album, he has been able to really create things that are really interesting, and at the same time that still has the appeal of 2 Chainz music. You know, the fact that those are bangers, those are fun songs. You want to listen to 2 Chainz, not to listen to something too serious. But at the same time, he manages to talk about more serious issues, more personal things. And yeah, I really do love this album for what it is. It's beautifully produced. It's a bit more understated than Pretty Girls Like Trap Music, but at the same time it also enables 2 Chainz to get a bit more personal and a bit more reflective, and that's always something that I appreciate. And honestly, I feel like people are kind of sleeping on the 2 Chainz right now. I never thought that I'd ever say that, but yeah, 2 Chainz is definitely doing something really interesting with his last couple of releases. Tinashe is an artist that I have a lot of respect for, and I really love. I love how she's able to mix a more experimental R&B that is reminiscent of Kelela or FK Twigs, with a R&B that is much more mainstream and that gives you everything that you expect from good R&B music that you hear on the radio. She is one of the best R&B artist, and one of the best producer I've heard in my life, honestly. Like, I'm not just saying this to overpraise this album, but Songs for You is the first album that Tinashe was able to release as an independent artist, and it's a perfect representation of a vision, and I'm so happy that she was able to create this album, because that's 100% her. You know, this is the album she was supposed to do years ago with Joyride, and yeah, it's one of the most fascinating albums I've heard last year, and also one of the catchiest. There's so many tunes on this album that are a little bit Save Room for Us, Stormy Weather, Upscotch. There's so many songs that are still R&B songs that you can listen to even when you want to listen to something a little less dark, you know, something a little lighter. But at the same time, there's so much there's so many interesting things about this project that makes it, that shows what a special artist Tinashe is. I loved Gallant's previous album, and this one was not a disappointment at all. He went for a more 2000 influenced R&B, and it was a nice direction for him. I definitely feel like this was the album where him and his label thought, okay, Gallant could become an important artist, an important R&B artist on the mainstream stage. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I do think this album had everything to make Gallant a very bigger deal on the R&B landscape. So it was great album, a lot of very great tracks. If you like R&B from the 2000s as much as I do, I feel like you're gonna love this album. Mereba was for me, one of my revelations of 2019. I found out about her thanks to a song called Heatwave that features another artist that I love, Black. And this song sort of mixed hip hop with R&B with folk and sort of like something that was almost a bit country music. And I thought, what is this? And I've listened to her entire album and it's stunning. She really managed to mix all of these influences on one album that feels extremely organic, that feels really spiritual, and that feels just so good to listen to. And it's a very personal album for her. She also mixes her singing with her rapping and with spoken words as well. And it's just very impressive what versatile artist she is. Her voice sort of reminds me of Janelle Monáe and Solange mixed together, but her music is definitely very unique. And I haven't heard a lot of people talk about Mereba, and once again, if you love R&B music, I definitely think you should check her out because she is a very promising artist. She has been in the game actually for a long time, but this album is one of the best R&B albums of 2019. If you've listened to Feels, the first album by Snoh Aalegra, you're definitely gonna love how those feels are gonna, and exactly like Gallant that I was talking about right before. If on Feels, Snoh Aalegra was more like, I don't know, there was like kind of a 70s vibe to it in a music. On How This Feels Again, it definitely feels like Snoh Aalegra is more influenced by 90s and early 2000 R&B. She really made it work very well, and it's nice because it helps her music to be a bit more straightforward, and I think she needed that because it's a very honest album about love, about falling in love and then falling out of love with somebody. And yeah, I like that it enables her to be a lot more honest, and that's that honesty that really makes a difference on this album, I think. And also her voice it's like honey, it's so beautiful. So yeah, I thought this was a really great album, and I saw actually a lot of people talk about this album, so I'm really happy that people are finally paying attention to Snoh Aalegra, because to me she's going to be one of the biggest R&B artists in the next few years. If you've listened to Atrocity Exhibition, this album, you know what I'm saying, is definitely going to be kind of surprising because it's Danny Brown still being as delirious as he is, and that's why we love him, and he's extremely original, but he does it in a totally different way here. You know, Atrocity Exhibition was a very dark album. It felt claustrophobic at times. It was a very weird album, very dark. This one, it feels like we fell in the middle of a sitcom from the 70s, and it's very colorful. It's a bit more influenced by old school hip hop, like 90s hip hop. It's at times really fun. Like there's the title track, you know what I'm saying, is to me like the catchiest thing Danny Brown ever did, and this song makes me happy for some reason. I don't know why. So it's really different from Atrocity Exhibition, but in the end you still recognize Danny Brown, and he's still faithful to himself, and he's still one of the most original and one of the most singular voice in hip-hop at the moment. This album, I've returned to it quite a lot, but it's funny because the first time I've listened to it I thought, oh, this is a beautiful album, this is ambient music, this is nice. And I've listened to it quite a lot during the summer because it was perfect for that season, and then I put it aside. Then I returned to it during the winter, then I put it aside again. And as of late, I've been listening to it again, and it ended up honestly being one of my favorite albums of 2019 because I just returned to it and I always discover something new. And it's really the type of album, the first time you listen to it, you'll be exactly like me. You'll be like, oh, this is nice, this is beautiful, this is beautifully written, this is beautifully sung, the production is really beautiful on it, but it's not gonna do that effect on you, and then it's gonna come, like I promise you. And especially during this time of the year where the sun is back and everything, you're really gonna like it. I promise you, this is a very beautiful album, and a much more emotional album than you'd think it is at first. I found out about Vagabon with this album, and I've listened to the first album after, which was a bit more rock influenced, and I actually really liked it. But a second album that was released in 2019, it's self-titled, isn't rock music, it's not R&B music, it's not pop music, I don't exactly know what it is. It's really, it clearly doesn't sound like anything else. And she really mixes a lot of different things, a lot of organic elements with things that are a bit more pop and a bit more electronic, especially on the song Water Me. Water Me Down, sorry, that is one of the best songs of 2019 in my opinion. And she has also a voice that is sort of captivating. When she sings, you really listen to what she is singing about. And yeah, that's just like the Rai X album. It's the type of album the first time you listen to, you think, oh, it's nice, I like it. It's a nice music to listen to when the sun is out and you're enjoying life. But at the same time, you keep going back to it, and it just keeps on revealing itself to you. And in the end, you're like, okay, there's definitely not another album like this one. One of the best R&B album of the year, of course. It's so beautifully produced. It's so much fun to listen to. If you love R&B, everything on this album, you're gonna love it, because pretty much what Anderson .Paak is doing here is paying tribute to R&B from the 70s, then R&B from the 90s, then R&B from the early 2000s. There's a Brandy collaboration on it, there's a Smokey Robinson collaboration on it, and just Anderson .Paak is a glorious artist. Like, he's one of the most fun artists to listen to, he's one of the most energetic as well, and he has just got so much charisma. So yeah, this album was stellar, and I love Malibu, but I feel like Ventura was even better than Malibu. A Seat at the Table is one of my favorite albums of all time, honestly, and so I was really looking forward to this new album by Solange, to where she was gonna go next. And I feel like When I Get Home is a perfect continuation of A Seat at the Table, because she took all of the elements, this very strong musicality that was the main appeal of A Seat at the Table, and also a pride to be a black woman, how proud she is to be black, and how proud she is of a culture, of the music that was created by a culture, by the art that is created by a culture. And I feel that you can definitely feel that on When I Get Home, which feels like A Seat at the Table with futuristic elements and more experimental moments on it as well. It's very reminiscent of Afrofuturism, this album, I think. And yeah, it's one of the most captivating albums of the year. I've said that a couple of times, but I really do believe that for that one. It shows what a special artist Solange is, and there's really no one quite like her in the R&B landscape at the moment. The last album I picked is Zoo by Denzel Curry, and for the simple reason that this album, it's banger on banger on banger on banger. It's the perfect way to describe it. Denzel Curry decided to pay tributes to his South Floridian roots with this album, and you can definitely hear that in the sound of this album. And it's nice because compared to Taboo, which was a very ambitious album, I feel like on this album he tried something new. Once again, he tried to show how versatile he is, how ambitious he is as well, and yet it feels like an album that he had a lot of fun making, and it's a lot of fun to listen to as well. And I really do feel that like Denzel Curry, it's gonna be like the next big name in the rap industry, because everything that he has been releasing since 2016 has been nothing but impressive. So honestly, I'm really looking forward to whatever Denzel Curry does next. He just made a project with Kelly Beats that is once again great, and yeah, he's really on his way to greatness. He's just delivering every time, and Zoo was one of my favorite hip-hop albums of the year, just because it was such an exhilarating album and such a thrilling album to listen to. So this is it for my list of my favorite albums of 2019. Thank you for watching all of it. If you watched all of it, thank you for watching some of it. If you've watched some of it, I hope it wasn't too long. And yeah, I'm waiting to see your suggestions. I'm waiting to see what you think of this list. I'm waiting to see what were your favorite albums of 2019. I'm so happy to be able to make those videos. Maybe for you it doesn't seem much, but for me it's a lot of fun, and this was a lot of fun to make. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon, and I'm gonna try to make more videos soon, I promise. So I'll see you next time, and in the meantime, take care, especially right now. I really hope you take care of yourself, and I really hope all of you are great. I'll see you the next time, whenever that is, but I hope it will be soon. Take care, guys.